Joining me on the way forward are it's a really good group of people here. As you can see, we have a whole family if you're watching this on video. So let's start with Dr. Chantelle George. She's the founder and CEO of Chantelle George Consulting. Also, Donovan Ruble. He is film studies major at Dillard University. Also, Cymoine Holmes, same major, Dillard University. Also, Mass Comm. And then also Scott Lipscomb. He is at Xavier University, or I should say a graduate of Xavier University, mass communications, mass studies. Scott, you are outnumbered, man. I'm sorry. Hate to see that for you. But everyone, thank you so much for joining me on the way forward. How are you?
Doing well. Happy to be here. Thanks for having us.
No problem. No problem. I'll assume the other three are doing fine too. So,
Yeah.
so actually, Chantel, let's start with you. The Media Scholars Program. What inspired the program, and what did you hope to see from it when you started getting students involved?
Absolutely. So excited to be here. The Media Scholars Program really came out of a thought I had in preparing for this year's Super Bowl. So our consulting firm, CG Consulting, we focus on all things young people. So everything from the high school pipeline through career. We work with foundations, nonprofits, institutions, districts, corporations, et cetera, and got the really neat opportunity to partner with the National Football League to do a holistic view around how do we incorporate young people into Super Bowl. And so from a personal standpoint, I've always wanted to do something big in New Orleans. I've always wanted to figure out what is something that we can do really big for students so that we leave an impact in the community. And so, again, we do a lot of work with students, but really looking for that big opportunity. And who thought it would have been Super Bowl, honestly? And so, nevertheless, we started having conversations with the National Football League. I wear a higher ed hat, so my background is higher education. I have a passion for college students. And so we were talking about a series of events, pretty much everything from opening night to the game, Eddie, and we landed on the media center. And so I thought about this idea of like, how do we incorporate college students who are studying to be in these professions, who want to be media professionals, and really just ask the National Football League of like, one, can I get credentials for all of these students? And then two, can you support us in this? And they were open and willing to do it. And then from there on, our company really built out this peer cohort model program. We really wanted to create not just an opportunity just for Super Bowl, but an opportunity for students across New Orleans to really have that community, to network with each other, and to really have the opportunity to capture the content and really live in their purpose at the biggest event of the year. And so that's kind of how we started and what we're hoping to continue to accomplish.
Well, let me talk to the students about their experience. And so, Scott, you're the elder statesman of the three. So, so being a graduate who got into the program, what were your first impressions once you started working with the Super Bowl effort?
I mean, it was just crazy. Again, Super Bowl only happens once every year. It doesn't come to every city. So just being able to, one, be a part of it, but two, with such a great cohort. It was a dream come true. It was dope. It was dope.
I love that. Okay, thank you so much for saying it was dope, Scott. All right, good check mark for Scott. Simone, Simone, what about you? When you started working with it, what were your impressions?
At first off, I was grateful for the opportunity, kind of shocked, but I got it. But all in all, I would give it a 10 out of 10. Would recommend for more people to join this program. I will say it was life changing and very eye opening. So those are my two words on it.
All right, what about your impressions, Donovan?
I mean, I feel like going into it as a media professional coming into this, it was very hectic. Just going into the media role, I noticed everybody was on the move. Everybody was moving around. Everybody had something to do. And so it was a little hectic at first, but once I kind of caught along to things, I felt a little more comfortable.
So I'm going to stick with you really quickly, Donovan. You said it was hectic. Everything was moving around. Everything was going kind of fast. What was an aha moment for you besides the stuff moving so fast? What would you say was a big aha moment?
So, what exactly do you mean by aha moment?
A
No.
moment when just at some point you looked at everything going around, you looked at the pace of everything, or you just looked at the people who are in the room. And you said, "Aha, this is really what it kind of looks like behind the scenes."
Honestly, it's It was that first day walking in, seeing Fox, seeing Bounty, seeing the NFL draft doing their thing, Bleacher Report, all the ESPN, um, Philadelphia Sports, all these different companies, just all in one space. And I was just thinking, like, this is an opportunity you don't always get,
Right.
to have all these professionals in one solid area. So for me, it was like, oh, let me network with everybody that I can,
Yeah.
because I mean, I might not have the chance to do this again.
Yeah. What about for you, Simone? What was an aha moment for you?
Oh, I would say an aha moment for me was opening night. When I saw everything kind of come together. I feel like it's bigger than what's on TV. I feel like always the in-person experience is a lot better than what's on TV, but it was more of an like the aha moment, but also an I made it moment, so to speak, because there were multiple celebrities around, multiple news outlets, not just from local New Orleans news, all over the country, just there, along with the athletes, along with and then it was really good energy there. So that was my aha moment. And then just getting to interview with multiple players, celebrities, local influencers, national influencers. So that was my aha moment.
And what about you, Scott? What was an aha moment for you?
See, that's a tough one. I mean, just to piggyback off what everyone else said, I mean, open night was crazy. Just again, you in the same room as some of the top journalists from ESPN, Fox, Bleacher Report, The Athletic. So to be in that same room, but then in the actual convention center, I'm less than 2 feet away from Cam Newton, Pat McAfee, Stephen A. Smith. So just again, being looked as a professional now, not a student. I mean, I just want to thank Dr. George for that. That was crazy, man. That was crazy.
So, what about so for you, Chantelle? As you took a look at what the students were doing, or as you thought about what the students were doing, what is something that you looked at and you thought to yourself, okay, we have these students in a really good place right now. They are really picking something else. What were you proud of?
Yeah, I still am proud of them. I'm looking at three of them right now and just have a ridiculous smile on my face. But I was proud of a lot of things. One in particular is that their ability to rise to the occasion. As we were
Mhm.
having conversations before they were even selected, it was a conversation of like, are they going to be ready to rise to the occasion? Or is it going to consume them? Are they going to be too nervous or whatnot? And so I was really confident that we were going to choose the right students who are professional and who are ready to rise to the occasion. And all of them did. They walked in there like professionals. They had their media credentials. They were prepared. The amount of research that they did in a short amount of time. You have to think about, we pulled this together in about 90 days, right? And so
Mhm.
we had over 200 applications. We interviewed over 40. We chose the 17. And then they had 2 trainings before this. So it was a very fast paced, like thrusted into the environment. And so I had a little bit of anxiety going into opening night, even for myself, right? I had been briefed about what opening night was going to look like and feel like, but you don't really know, as Donovan mentioned, until you walk in there and you see all the lights and all of the people and all of the athletes and things like that. And so everybody just came with their game face on, to be honest. New Orleans represented in that space. And I was just so proud to watch them, rise to that occasion and be prepared. And then going into Radio Row, which is another very high stakes, atmosphere. But they also, were able to move around and operate and network. And then the other opportunities that we had along the week, right? And so a lot of our scholars were pretty much dispersed across the city, right? We were at NFL Play 60. Quite a few of them worked the red carpets for some of those events throughout the week, all the way through the weekend. And so for each of those opportunities, which wasn't that much prep time for a lot of them, right? They showed up prepared with their equipment, and captured some amazing content and interviews that are all available on our social media, and got really a lot of love from national, folks who reshared and reposted and found us on social media. And so really proud of the work that they put in. Not surprised, because I knew how much talent that they had, but really proud of what we were able to create as a group. And I have shared with them a lot, like, I am a co-creator. I want this program to feel like it is co-created by students. And so a lot of times I was asking them, hey, what What do you think? Does this make sense? Does this not make sense? What would you want to
Mm.
experience? That's hence how we ended up in Apple Music, Kendrick Lamar's press conference, which was one of those moments that I had my aha watching this opportunity, being so close to that, and now having a relationship with the Apple Music team is incredible. So a lot of things to be proud of. I feel like I was a proud auntie / mom in those spaces, and they really just rose to the occasion.
You're listening to The Way Forward. I'm Eddie Francis, and we are talking to Dr. Chantelle George. She's the founder CEO of CG Consulting. Also, she formed the Media Scholars Program for the Super Bowl. And we're talking to three of the students who were involved in the program: Donovan Ruble from Dillard University, Cymoine Holmes from Dillard University, Scott Lipscomb, who graduated from Xavier University. And so, quick story, I'll never forget, I got my degree in mass comm from Loyola. I am doing an internship at WWL. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to be a TV news anchor. That is it. That is what I'm going to do, until I saw one of them putting on makeup, and I did not like the makeup routine at all because I saw what it was doing to skin. I kid you not. And then the other thing was, I heard the anchors complaining about the editors making changes to their stories. And I thought, I really don't want that, because I will flip tables. So with that being said, any one of you, is there something specific that you learned that you probably, and I know this is almost the same as an aha moment, but was there anything that you can think about that you learned about the process, or maybe the responsibility of doing mass media work, that does any of that come up to you? That anything that you can think of, any of the three of you can pick up on that question, if there's something you can think about. Go ahead, Donovan.
Okay, I think it was just the speed of everything. Like kind of like I talked about before. Everybody's moving at a fast pace, and everybody's producing content at that same level.
Yeah.
And so understanding that at the end of the day, all of these programs, ESPN, NBC, CBS, they're all competing at the end of the day. And understanding that, I think was really important and really eye-opening for myself.
I'm sorry, Simone, go ahead.
Oh no, you're fine. I would say for me, my, something that I learned was, again, similar to Donovan, was how fast paced everything was. And along with, because I'm good with thinking on the spot. However, when it comes to that environment, it's that times 10, along with the previous research that you've done on the talent. And so that's what I would say. That's what I would say is what I learned.
Is there anything that comes to mind for you, Scott, by any chance?
Definitely. I mean, one thing I really saw, I think that really has just been confirmed about this space is you're going to start seeing the same people at the top. Those top people, they're the first ones in, the last ones out. So just kind of mimicking that work ethic in everything that I do. So that way, when I get my shot, I can be right up there with them.
Yeah. And my apologies for Radio Row, by the way. Radio Row, there's something wrong with us in this business. So, I just apologize, in advance if any of you decide to get into radio. No, I'm joking. But I'm glad you got a chance to see that. I think when I was an intern, that was probably the same thing for me. The first time somebody barked at me and said, "Move faster," I was just like, oh, okay, cool. So, Chantelle, I want to come back to you, and I wanted to ask you kind of a 30,000 foot level question. When people take a look at what's happening on TV, when they look at what's happening on social media, when they hear about what's going on radio, a lot of times they'll look at us, they'll look at the talent, and they'll say, well, they're not doing anything really important. They're just running their mouths, and they're not really delivering much of anything that's important, until we screw up, until we say something that people don't like. And then all of a sudden it becomes a bit of an issue. From a 30,000 foot level for you, as someone who put this program together, what was the importance that you saw of putting this kind of program together?
Yeah, that's a great question. One, I would say the importance of having diversity in the space, right? Full transparency. As I was looking around in Radio Row, We had some people of color, but we were not. It wasn't that many of us, to be honest. And if I martini glass down and look at the universities that were in this space as well, you had about 6 or 7 other universities that were there, had their tables as well, but did not have much students of color in those spaces at all. And so I thought about, if our program was not in this room at all, I don't think I would have seen any Black or brown college students, to be honest with you. And so that was a big like aha moment I had, even in the space of like, okay, we are doing something that is transformative. And I thought about the thousands of students who also deserve to be in those spaces. And so I had a lot of those moments throughout the week. So that is one thing that comes to mind. The second opportunity and things we really thought about was like ensuring that we are telling the different stories of Super Bowl from our perspective, from individuals that are here in New Orleans, that live and eat and breathe this community, right? We have a lot of people obviously coming in and then leaving out February 9th, but we are here all the time. And I thought that was really important to have students be able to decide what they wanted to cover, right? We were very like, hey, like this is your opportunity to decide what makes sense for you. If you want to cover all of the athletes, if you're not a crazy sports fan, maybe you want to cover soulful celebration, or what are people eating, or just the different things that people were interested in. But we gave that autonomy and flexibility for students to choose their own adventure, as I would say, because it's important for them to tell their stories from their point of view, which was really exciting, and each of them had the opportunity to do that.
This reminds me so much of the story of Stuart Scott. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with how Stuart Scott developed his persona at ESPN, but one of the things that happened is that when he started, and when he started saying "booyah" and "cool as the other side of the pillow" on ESPN during the highlights, he got hate mail for that. And there were people who said, no, he is not a true reporter. He's a goofball. But the way he explained it was, well, there are people listening to ESPN who speak my language and they want to hear from someone like them.
Mm-hmm.
And ESPN wound up building their brand heavily around Stuart Scott, in addition to some of the other personalities. And so your story and your perspective on that, Chantelle, it takes me back to that story about Stuart Scott and how important it was to see somebody like me who says the same kinds of things as me. And I couldn't wait for I wanted to watch the highlights of sports more than I wanted to watch the events themselves because of him.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's a great point that you make. With that being said, I'm wondering from the students, for you, because one of the things you mentioned, Chantelle, was the importance of doing research.
Mm-hmm.
Something that I push all the time with my colleagues at WBOK is that you got to do some show prep, you got to get ready to do your show. And so for you, any of the students, is there a particular research point that maybe you got into, or something that you thought about before maybe you engaged with folks and you say, you know what, I really want to know more about this? Is there anything that anyone can think about that you wanted to ask more about or learn more about? I know I'm
I
kind of
would
catching everybody off guard with that one, but go ahead, Cymoine.
I would say a lot of people, like, especially with the athletes, go about, okay, what do you do, like, on the field? They don't really ask the questions of what do you do outside the field? What's going on in your personal life? Because I feel that a lot of people, like, even on the field, people want to, like, oh, like, they're quick to say, like, oh, like, the scandals and this and that, but scratch that. Like, what are you doing, like, for the community? Like, who are you as a person? So that's the research I did, more so to get to know them and to show people that they're still human too, rather than just machines on the field and just doing whatever. So that's the
And Cymoine, with that being said, did that change your perception of athletes?
It did. It did. Because I'm more so into, like, the entertainment side of everything. However, like, the Super Bowl is a Super Bowl. It's a combination of everything.
Mhm.
So it did change my perspective on athletes because I learned more about them as people. Like, I know, like, they're human all at the end of the day, but just knowing like, okay, like you do have a family and a wife and kids that you go home to. You're doing stuff for the community. You're out here at, for example, NFL Play 60. Just giving that time back to younger kids who want to grow up and be football players or just do things related to sports. So it did change my perspective on it.
All right, Donovan or Scott, do you have anything you can think about?
One thing I could definitely think of, I thought about even before this opportunity came about, is even how I would cover an events like the Super Bowl. I would definitely say this is the biggest event I've ever covered. I'm a videographer at heart, and looking into research points of how I'm gonna tell a story, how I'm going to show people that don't see, that aren't able to get into the room that I'm in. I think it was really important for me to look at other creators as well.
Mhm.
Understand, let me look and research who else is coming here that is doing the same thing that I'm doing. Who's done this before me as well, to see, okay, how did they build a story and how can I do that same thing with my own twist?
Mm, mm. Okay. So I wanted to wind up a little bit, and Scott, I'll start with you on this last question. I always like to ask my guests about the way forward of whatever the topic is we're talking about, and so let's change it up a little bit for you, the students. And so when you look at this field of mass communication, what kind of insight would you give parents? Because there's some parent right now is listening to this, and their kid is telling them, "I want to be in radio, I want to be in TV, I want to be an influencer, I want to be a social media manager." When you take a look at the effort that you did, Scott, what feedback or insights would you give to parents about their kids who want to get into this field based on what you learned?
Definitely. My biggest thing is you have to love the work more than you love the appearance of it. Everyone wants to be the Stephen A. Smith. Everyone wants to be the Shannon Sharp, Pat McAfee, which is amazing. They're making great money, but they don't see all the work that they put to get there. Stephen A. Smith started in radio, started in journalism. He was in Philly. Like, they don't see all the steps that it takes to get there. They just see the big contracts, the TV time. So if you really love what you do, it shouldn't matter if you're on the biggest station or the small station, you're going to put forth the same effort. So I definitely think parents have to understand it's not linear. Some people, they make it, by 24, 25. Some people it's 30, 35. Some people won't get a big breakthrough until 40, 45. So it's a passion field. You have to love what you do and you have to wake up, and it's what drives you. Like for me, I love sports journalism. I love sports, and I want to make it. So no matter if it's today, tomorrow, 2 years from now, I'm going to put that same passion for it. So I just want parents to know, like, apply to those internships. You're going to get some no's. I got some no's before I got my first yes. My first internship was WHUR, Howard's radio station. Then from there, did ESPN, and now I'm thankful enough to do the Media Scholars Program. So just again, it's not linear. You might hear a lot of no's before you hear yes, but stay committed to it, network, and don't ever think you're too good for advice. I think a lot of people think they have everything figured out, but there's people who've been doing this longer than you who want to genuinely help people like us, younger people. So I definitely say listen more than you talk, be a sponge, and just have a passion for it.
Scott, I believe this is what they call bars. What about you, Simone? What kinds of insights would you provide?
I'm sorry. Okay. Um, okay. The insight that I would provide is don't be afraid of the word no. Because similar to what Scott said, this industry, it's a passion. You have to wake up, like eat, sleep, breathe, whatever you want to do. And you're gonna hear a lot of no's before you hear the yes. And also, like similar to what Scott said, it's nice to have like all the TV time and like the contracts and everything, but it's the work because a lot of people don't know their teams that are involved with the talent. The talent is they do what they have to do, but there's also a team that works behind them. But one strong piece of advice that I would give parents is relationships are everything, no matter if you're talking to the CEO or if you're talking to the secretary or the intern that's giving the mail or delivering coffee. Because at the end of the day, the person that's delivering coffee or whatever, they're talking to everyone. They're talking to this above the CEOs. They're talking to everyone in the company. But I say all that to say relationships are everything, and make sure that the relationships that you have are, if you can, be mutually beneficial, and just find you a mentor that's willing to pour into you and pour into your craft. Because if you don't have a mentor, it's going to be a little harder because you're going to have to figure out a lot more on your own. It's going to be just a little bit more challenging. So that's what I would tell parents.
Bars. All right, pressure's
Completely.
on, Donovan. What are your insights?
I think one thing parents should definitely tell their kids, and also professors should tell their students, is that you need to take initiative of your own future. Of
Mm,
course, we have counselors, we have our friends that tell us, "Hey, you need to go do this. You could do this. You can do this." And we always have those people. We always should have those people around us to push us. But at the end of the day, we have to be able to push ourselves. I think that's the main thing, is understanding that if you can't push yourself to do something, I mean, all your friends and them and your professors telling you this and that, you're not gonna you're not gonna believe in that. You're not going to actually take action. And I think that's what even all these students here that are talking to, all of them do that. So I think that's something that's really important for all students, young, old, should always think about.
bars. Chantelle, what's next for the Media Scholars Program?
Yes, so we are currently we have an interest form that just got posted this week, and so if students are interested, students here in Louisiana and even outside of Louisiana, we want to gauge a national interest of students who would be interested in doing something like this or being a part of a movement. As I would say, these amazing 17 scholars will continue to work with us this year. We're probably going to officially call them alumni of the program at some point, but really just two big things. One is gauging interest. And so if students are interested or parents know their kids are interested or whatnot, please find us on social media. So at Chantelle George Consulting, both LinkedIn and Instagram. And the second piece we're doing is really talking to corporations, Eddie, really trying to get some sponsorships and some backing around this program. I have a lot of high hopes for what I would love to see, wanting to expand to give this opportunity to other students as well, and ensuring that the Donovans and the Cymoines and the Scotts of the world who would want to cover other large events like the Grammys and the BET Awards and the draft and Super Bowl again. We want to be able to make sure that they can get there, and that they have the opportunity to attend and to participate. And so really looking for those corporations and other sports and entertainment agencies who would want to partner with us in doing that. So that's what we're working on, and just excited to see where it lands.
Dr. Chantelle George is the founder and CEO of CJ Consulting. Donovan Ruble is a student at Dillard University in Film Studies. Cymoine Holmes, a student at Dillard University in Film Studies. Scott Lipscomb, he is a graduate of Xavier University in Mass Comm and Media Studies. Folks, thank you so much for joining me on the way forward.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.